Hello. Well, welcome to Revolutionize Your Marketing, Your Business, Your Life. And I'm here today with Greg Grand, the famous Greg Grand. Yeah. Well, Greg, I'm excited to talk to you because as it should in the most functioning departments in real life and consulting, sales and marketing should work together. And I'm excited to talk to you about what you're doing now, especially as we come towards the end of the year. And as we were talking right before we hopped on, what you and your partners are doing with AI and how you're helping clients. So before we get into all of that, could you just tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'll give you the short version. So native New Yorker, grew up in the Bronx and then lived in Manhattan and went to school upstate. Graduated with a degree in electrical engineering, which I thought I was going to use, and quickly learned that with the technical background and I could kind of talk to people without staring at my shoes. And I combined those. Had a career of going through semiconductors and contract manufacturing, and went into sales leadership about 20 years ago. Started as a hunting salesperson and kind of worked through the management chain there. And then I started this business about 7 years ago. And what I do in this business is I'm a fractional chief revenue officer. So what I do is I help either companies that are like owner-led sales, trying to build a sales team, or I guess I'm the fix-it guy, right? I go into sales teams where, basically sales have been flat for a while or they're decreasing. And many times the CEO is trying to play sales manager when they really should be working on the larger strategies of the business. So I go in and I help them everything from soup to nuts, process, strategy, execution, really big on accountability and, just trying to get the sales teams to be the best they can and break all-time sales records.
Yeah, that's great. And I love your title, Chief Revenue Officer. That really resonates with me. And sitting in the marketing seat, so often we meet with clients and they want to start doing marketing and we can drive all these leads and let's get activity out there. But then they don't have a sales plan or a process. And like you said, often the clients that we work with, the owner, founder, or CEO is still doing a lot of the sales, and how they hand that off and how do they develop the process is so important. So let's talk a little bit then. How do you help clients that are kind of in this situation? They're ready to grow, but they've been doing things the way they always have. How do you help them get over that first hurdle?
Yeah, so it starts with just like any consummate sales professional would do is a lot of discovery. I don't rush to get involved unless I'm sure it's the right fit and I can move the needle for them. So usually starts out with about 3 different meetings, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes long, where I'm really figuring out and understanding where they are. What have they done? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Why are we even talking? That type of thing. And then once I get that, I'll basically break it down. I have a multi-phased approach. Usually the first phase is about 90 days where I'm building all of the infrastructure out to make sure that they have, they're going to be successful. So what is that? Make sure their CRM is, first of all, they have a CRM. It's being used correctly. The sales process is embedded within the CRM. We've got a good forecasting program. We've got good dashboards. Building compensation plans out, right? So compensation will direct the sales teams to go in the areas that the CEO wants them to do. So building compensation plans, building good sales onboarding plans, getting a sales training program set up, all those kind of things, and building, review forms, all those kind of things. So process and infrastructure. Now, if there's an existing sales team, what I actually do is by week 3, I'm leading the sales team. So CEO, go ahead and be CEO. I've got this. So I'm I generally will run, I like the EOS L10 meeting format.
Yeah, my God, that has made a world of difference for us.
So I run that with all my clients. It takes the sales team a little time to get used to it because it's a different level of accountability. But we all know all of that process, it's really cool because you can see trends and it works. So that's, kind of what it'll be. A typical day will be sales meeting, for 90 minutes and then individual 45-minute one-on-ones with each individual salesperson on the team to do pipeline review and coaching. Right? I really believe that a lot of sales leaders, especially newer sales leaders, when they get into the role, they come into it with almost a bullyish type of I'm the boss now. And I believe that as a sales leader, really any leader for that fact, you should really come about it with the servant leader mindset. And, I tell my teams, like, I'm here for 2 reasons, is to remove roadblocks for you and help you make more money. That's what I'm going to try and do. And every week I'm doing that. And when you do that, what's really cool is there's a little bit of a bumpy time where they get used to it. But then the sales team realizes that, especially using that format, I'm listening to them every week. I'm hearing what their issues are, and I'm taking immediate action to try and help them so they can level up their own game. And that's pretty rewarding to be able to build that relationship, especially as a consultant with the sales team that always says, You don't know my business, right? You can't help us. But I can, because I don't need to really know your business, but I do know how to build and lead high-performing sales teams.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned a couple of things. CRM, yes. I don't know how a sales team could exist without one, but I've worked in companies. I mean, this is years ago where they were still doing the whiteboard thing. The sales director, didn't even have a spreadsheet. You just had the whiteboard. And God forbid that they got wiped clean. And we ourselves are actually invested in a CRM this year. We've always been on some forms of CRMs, but we invested heavily this year, and I always encourage clients to be on a CRM. What do you find when it does come to a CRM? Like, what's the biggest challenge getting a client, a sales team, to just adopt one? If
Yeah.
you're going to give some advice, like, how do you say, okay, we've got to do this?
Well, at least you're not making me give you my favorite or least favorite CRM, so that's good. I escaped.
Nope, I'm not going to do that.
It is a big issue, and it's a real issue, and it's a real struggle. And I think it also ties down to, interestingly, I'm a big believer in DISC, behavioral analysis, as well. So I believe it comes down to the individual and their personality type. The more analytical people will tend to be okay with it. They'll tend to migrate to it, and it's data oriented. But the people like us that just go out and talk and are friendly, sometimes we're not so good. So I think there's a couple of things. Is you need to teach the sales teams that this isn't just a big brother thing. This is actually the best tool you can use. Right now, what happens when you have to find a quote? Oh, I need to go to Share Drive and get this. What happens when you need to find email? Well, I got to go to Outlook. And what about when you need to get those design files? Well, I need to go to the design folder. And, and trying to organize all this, as well as having your data, all of your contact information, tasks, all these things in one place. It's like, you've got it. It's all there. You have everything, all your quotes you did, all your emails that went back and forth, everything in your business, and setting the next task of, do I need to follow up in 2 weeks? Those are all in one spot. And then the other thing that's really cool is you can get it set up where when you set up a good dashboard, the salesperson can actually look there and get an idea of where they are, and to weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, that type of thing. The reality is, I think with the core question with adoption, it takes accountability, enforcement, and continual reinforcement. And so the way I try and do this, which is, it can get fairly complex, is we start out on the spreadsheet, weekly metrics. Here's the 20 things I need you to report, right? How many calls did you make? How many people did you see? What does your pipeline look like? What did you book? Right. So from there, then there's all those metrics. Then what I try and do is I take those exact metrics, and I put it into the CRM system. So now when someone sends an email, it's tracking that. When they made a cold call, we have a dialer on, it tracks that, right? All these kind of things. So all those metrics, the activity, the leading indicator KPIs, they're all on the dashboard. The lagging indicators of what was booked, that's there too. So the next stage of, once you have this great dashboard for the salespeople, then I roll up to a executive level dashboard, which takes all that information. So the CEO can literally go to one page, see every salesperson, everything that's going on. Then the third stage of that process is to get that all automated. So every Monday night at 5:00, a report goes out to all the salespeople and the executives with all the numbers, and then they've got it. And then we go to reporting it that way. So it starts out a little manual, but then it gets to an automated process as well, too. So,
Yeah.
that was a lot.
No. I mean, I think you're painting the picture, right? And where I love the CRM discussion is that you really can't marketing and sales work together unless they've got a tool like this, or you've got a dedicated staff that's going to be manually pulling all this data together, right? So as the marketer sitting in the fractional CMO seat, I love this because now our work, we can actually start showing some ROI. We can actually see have visibility into what the sales team is doing, what clients are asking about. So it just opens up this whole, not just transparency, but ability to really integrate and work together with your sales team in a different way.
100%. And that's one of the biggest things, is getting the people on a unified platform, right? You wouldn't believe the amount of companies that I go to where, if there's an existing sales leader, even if the CEO has got the marketing person direct to them, they don't have weekly meetings. Like when I'm with my clients, I have an hour long every week with marketing to talk about strategies and different workflows we can build out, and what the sales team needs and how can we get more leads in. I do monitor my marketing people on MQL to SQL conversions, just so you know.
I love it. I love it. And you should.
Too, right? Because that's all the time. Hey, we've got a lead. Oh, it's not a good lead. And that's the biggest friction point between sales.
Yep.
Always. Never goes away. So I try and bridge that gap and make sure and also enforce things for marketing. For instance, I've got a client right now and they want to do some case studies, and the marketing person sends an email out to the team and one person responds. And I said, that's not going to happen.
It works.
Next time, CC me, right? That didn't work. So now I'm going to go in and like kind of put my little 2 bits just to try and bring it in, because as sales leaders, we got a lot on our plate, right? We've got these big teams, we're working on big deals. We have to report to the CEO, do strategy, especially as a CRO. I've got marketing reporting to me. I've got customer service reporting to me. I've got design reporting to me, maybe operations and the salespeople. So like sometimes marketing, unfortunately, gets a little bit, pushed to the side. So I try and bridge that gap. It's really important. I've seen your other podcasts before about your term smarketing, and I love it. I've stolen that from you, by the way. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of trying to give marketing some visibility, and I love that you're actively trying to do that. What can a marketer do to get on your radar or get on sales team radar? Like, how did they get more interaction?
So I think the best thing to do is make sure that the marketing people come to your weekly sales meetings. That's the starting point. Because then, so especially if we're running, right? So like the typical sales meeting is, hey, let's all get in there and everybody talks about their pipeline for 15 minutes. Nobody else cares. So when you go into a model of let's report numbers, let's talk about strategic goals. But most importantly, what I like about that meeting format is we're spending at least 50% of the time solving issues. So it's a great place for me to go, hey, sales team, marketing's here. What do you need? What don't you have today? What could they do for you? What kind of campaigns could they run? What kind of swag could they give you? And then marketing, what do you need from the sales team to give them content that they can use to send to their clients, their prospects, that we can use for LinkedIn campaigns and all that kind of good stuff. So I believe that's where it starts, is at least having a period where they're in the same room for a period of time. Then I also believe the sales leader should absolutely be having another individual one-on-one with, either the CMO, director of marketing, or usually at the higher level to work on strategy type things. So those are the two really kind of basic things that have moved the needle. It's being there and keeping in touch and working on strategic initiatives together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's funny you brought up this marketing, because that is like the number one kind of rule with marketing. Just 10 meetings together. Oh, you guys should be talking regularly, weekly. So I love it. Well, so switching gears a little bit, you and I were talking about AI earlier. And I am personally, I think if you're a marketer, I don't know how you can't be getting into AI, at least have some interest. I'm fascinated, also overwhelmed. I'd love to hear what you're learning and using on the sales side.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that we're talking about. So, being an engineer, I'm super into tech and tech stacks and building those out for my clients. So I'm always looking at tools, and it's hard right now because it's overload. I give myself a commitment to review at least 5 AI sales tools every week. And I've been keeping to that for the
Oh my
Yeah, but I give them 2 minutes. And if the GUI's not there and I can't figure it out quick, I'm out. Right. Some of them are very complicated to use. So I do a lot of research on it. A lot of the stuff that I'm doing my research on preliminary is for prospecting right now, because I hate to say it as this lifelong salesperson, sales leader, but prospecting now is no question harder than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
In a career. It's noisy, especially with AI. It makes it worse. So we're going in a completely opposite direction with my teams. Instead of volume, it's slowing way down and going into a more hyper-personalized approach. And there are some ways that you can use AI. So we were talking before we started about doing custom GPTs. So here's an example, and this is something I can share with you, and you can share with your people. I have no problem sharing it. So I'm going to send
The good stuff, people. So listen up.
So if I'm going to send a highly personalized email to you, Reb, and I'm a salesperson, I don't know you. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to take a look at your profile. I'm going to see if I can find something common. Then I'm going to go to your corporate website, probably the About section. I'm going to go dig around there and see if I can find something. Then I may try and find you on Facebook or Instagram or something like that as well, just to kind of see if I can understand who you are, come up with a really, really great subject line that's going to do, what we call a pattern interrupt in sales, a psychological twist of it's just not another email, right? So I've got an example of a client, and she's very generous. In her About section on her profile, it tells all the kind of things she likes. And it's like, the example is like, one of them is Dateline and 2 is like tacos. So like a subject line to her would be like getting tacos and eating Dateline. Like that is going to stop her in her tracks and go, what is that? So that's the kind of thing. So what I did is I built a custom GPT, which does that, and it goes out and scrapes all those. So the reason I did this, because I saw my sales team was taking like 20 minutes, 30 minutes researching just to create that email. So now I could put your name in this thing, pop up, but it'll It's kind of creepy, but it's really good. So that's a really good efficiency.
Mm.
I think in prospecting as well, using a combination of automation, but then also not just the contact relation management system, but a contact management system and a way to tie that all together. So no affiliation, but I've become a really big fan of this program called Apollo.io, because what's really cool about that, yeah, you can do your research like you do on Zoom Info. You can do your sequences like you could do in your CRM, and you can also do LinkedIn prospecting all in the same place. And it's like under $100 a month. So I've been liking it.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Not know.
And you can do, they'll make contact requests on LinkedIn. You can send personalized messages, and the robots are doing it all. So, and I know I'm transitioning here, but when you're prospecting, it's not like there's no one trick pony solution anymore. You can't just make a phone call. You can't just send an email, because somebody calls this phone 9 times out of 10 and I don't know you, it's going to say it's probably spam, or I don't know you and I'm not picking up the phone. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm sitting at my desk and then a black phone going, hey, right? So I'm a big believer in multi-threading. And what I mean by that, which, in marketing, I'm sure, is hitting people from different areas. So I'm going to make a cold call on day 1. I'm going to send an email on day 4. I'm going to like one of their LinkedIn contacts or comments on day 2.
Yeah.
Let me do that. But the thing that's changed is pre-COVID, the numbers were like 5 or 6 contacts to get a response. And now it's like 12 to 15. I've got many salespeople that they don't get a response to like that 10th hit. So using AI to kind of automate some of those tasks while you're interjecting highly personalized, customized stuff works really well. So I do that. I also do it for a lot for market research with me when I'm with the new clients and some fractional is, hey, who's the top 3 competitors and, what are their strengths at SWOT, those kind of things.
Yeah.
You see a lot for market research, even for getting like a scratch board kind of thing. I had a client that they were doing an onboarding program. They want to have a day in the life of, 4 different kinds of salespeople. And now I know what that is, but to me, I'd actually sit down and map that out and write it out, probably 3 hours. Popped in and
Yeah.
what's a day in the life of a field sales rep? Now, of course, I had to massage it, but it saved me 2 hours of work. I had to do
Oh.
PowerPoint presentation next week at a summit I'm going to, and it was going to be a role play, right? We're going to have the salespeople do a role play. I'm like, I know how to do it, but I've never put it into a step. GPT, I have to do a sales role play next week. Now, and GPT will also build you the PowerPoint presentation. It's not super clean, but it'll do it. So I basically took that and, again, still had to put some time into it because GPT will lie to you. It'll give you bad information. You have to, you have to massage it a bit sometimes. But yeah, it's a huge efficiency booster for me. Definitely.
Cool. Well, I love that. And so it seems like custom GPT or chat has kind of been your go-to. So I love that. Same for us. And it is interesting. And I don't feel like it's an age thing because I'm finding even younger generation versus older, mid, whatever, there is pushback on it. Like people are just not wanting to use it. So I highly encourage everyone to get out there. And I'm very interested in this prospecting.
I want to do a really fun one. If you do, I just found this out the other day and it was just crazy. Put into GPT. We've been interacting for a while. What could you tell me about myself that maybe I don't know? It's
Oh my God,
pretty.
I love that.
I read it. I was like,
Okay, I'm going to do that.
yeah. And then I said, why did you say that? And it's just 2 prompts. It's pretty cool. That's a fun one. That's just a fun one.
Okay.
You have to use it a lot. If you're like never using it, it's not going to work. But I'm using it for, since the original version came out, now I'm on 4.0 and I guess 5 is being released now. So
Yeah. Oh, you're king already. Hey. So just really quick, the prompt is we've been working together for a while. Tell me something about myself that I don't know. Or
yeah, we've been working. Yeah. Yeah, I'll actually give me 1 second. I'll,
I love that.
yeah, because I just did this one yesterday. It should still be saved in my searches. Definitely should be there. Yeah, here we go. So the prompt was, from all of our interactions, what is the one thing that you can tell me about myself that I may not know about myself? It came out with 2 paragraphs then, and I just said, what makes you think that? And then it gave me 2 more additions onto that. And I read it. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. And then I thought, I'm like, yeah, I guess that's right, which is creepy because remembers everything you put in there. So that's the only caution though, because I'm early when I started using it, I really didn't think about it. And I was taking clients' P&Ls and throwing them up there and like, do a financial analysis. I'm like, oh, this is public.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be a little bit careful about that stuff. But my understanding is as long as you got the settings set up, you're not sharing everything, you should be fine. But interesting. Okay, I'm definitely gonna do that one. That, I'm dying to know what it knows about me.
I'm telling you, your eyes are going to roll back. You're like,
Awesome. I love it. Well, Greg, this is so much fun. We definitely have to do this again because things change and evolve. What maybe one thing you could leave if you've got somebody out in my audience that's maybe struggling with sales, has a sales team, or is trying to get out of the sales seat. They're an owner, so like I'm really ready to get out of that sales seat. What's some advice you could give them?
I mean, the list is long, right? I would say what makes teams successful is having the right processes in place. And if you're just moving from owner led to building a sales team, either take a course or hire someone, that is an expert at doing that because you just don't know what you don't know. I don't mean that to be rude, but you just don't. So bring in an
Yep.
expert to help you set that up. I think one of the most important things for sure is figuring out how to develop the right compensation plan because salespeople are coin operated. And I see so many clients that I work with, the salespeople are getting paid 100% salary, but they're not going out and selling and we don't know why. Or their variable is like 90-10. Building that compensation plan. So compensation plans are kind of like a built-in sales manager, because if you set certain goals of, hey, if you do this, you're going to make this much money and do this, salesperson's likely going to go in that direction. So that's one of the most important things for sure. And then CRM, of course, too. And that's an area you might need to help. Because here's what I see is people will pull the trigger, especially when they go from owner-led sales to building a sales team, and they're just going to go hire a salesperson. Well, clients I've worked with that have done that, uh, generally, CEOs are not the best at interviewing and hiring salespeople because salespeople are really good on interviews. So you really want to have an expert in interviewing salespeople helping you out with that, whether that's a professional recruiter or you get some help or something like that. So I get this question a lot too. I know this is a long answer, but the question is like, where should we focus? Or let's hire the salesperson and then we'll build everything out. And I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think you need to take the time, however long that time is for you, whether it's with help or without, to build proper onboarding, to make sure that your systems are up, make sure your sales process is tight, it's integrated into the system. Everything's dialed in because salespeople fail because they come in with no structure and they don't know what to do and they don't know how to succeed. So when they come in, it should be very clear to them what the expectations are, how they're going to be held accountable, and what they're supposed to be doing. So if you bring them in without that infrastructure, a lot of them will kind of not do so well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's great advice because it's the same on the marketing side. We see so many times we get brought in and they have a marketing manager or coordinator and there's no structure. The CEO doesn't really understand marketing and they're blaming this person, unfortunately, and saying they don't know what they're doing, but it really is because they weren't set up for success. And I think this, if I hear you correctly, that's the core of it. Set this person up for success and they will flourish and drive tons of revenue.
You're completely right. And I do want to add one thing because I think it's so important. And this goes out to every CEO out there that's bringing in a new salesperson or starting out hiring a new salesperson. You have to realize that this is an investment. Unless you're selling, now I'm talking about more business to business sales, longer sales, 6 months for B2C this week.
Right.
When you hire a salesperson, assume that that's an investment for 12 months and you're not going to see any return on your investment. Don't expect the salesperson is going to come in and start making it rain at month 2 or 3 because they're generally not. Usually the first 90 days is they're learning, they're building, they're starting to build their pipeline. Second quarter, they're getting a really nice pipeline. Maybe they'll get a little bit of action. If they're doing really well, Q3, you'll start to do business. But I tell all of my clients, like, figure minimum of 9 months that you're not going to see any return on this. So just have realistic expectations. Sales is hard right now, especially if you don't have a marketing department and you're relying purely on outbound. I've seen people that are very good salespeople go a month without even getting an appointment. And it's not because they're bad. It's just because it's noisy and it's harder right now. So it's just the message is to make sure, just like with marketing, people can't expect you to come in and get results. I tell the same people with marketing, you're investing for a year. If you see results, fantastic. But this is a 1-year investment. If you're not prepared to do that, you probably shouldn't move forward with it.
Yeah. No, that's such a great point. Thank you. It is. It's true with marketing. There's little wins that we can get, but the reality is especially if you haven't been doing marketing or you haven't been doing it well, there's a lot of foundational things that have to get built up and put into place.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally love it. Well, Greg, last question. If somebody does want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So my website is gsquaredadvisors.com. So I can see it right behind. If you're listening, it's GSQUARED advisors.com. LinkedIn, of course, just look me up, Greg Grand. If you want to send me an email, it's just Greg, GREG, at G Squared Advisors. And I'll be really stupid and put my cell phone on here, 619-411-11, if you want to call me.
Oh, I love it. Maybe one more time.
619-417-1100. Only good telemarketers can call me.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Greg. Really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me, Reb.